united in the work we need to do to address the challenges that we face. Let me add that the President is making good recovery from a bout of flu, and he will be up to the task of addressing the nation tomorrow at 7 p.m. Last night we were with him until 10 o'clock in the evening going through the draft, and by then he had improved quite significantly. On Friday, the day after the State of the Nation address, Friday morning, the 9th of February, the President will be up at dawn to warm up for the annual Presidential Golf Challenge at the Atlantic Beach Golf Club in Melkbosstrand. It is coordinated by the Minister for Public Service and Administration. The Presidential Golf Challenge will raise funds for the Cyril Ramaphosa Foundation. The foundation's partner entity, the Adopt a School Foundation, will use the fund to construct ablution facilities at schools in support of the Department of Basic Education's SAFE initiative, which stands for Sanitation Appropriate for Education. This is an important investment in the dignity of learners and staff at our schools, and a contribution to social infrastructure in the country. The President is honored that his playing partner this year is 14-year-old Botsepehi Pakuwe of Mangaung in the Free State. Botsepehi is one of the best young players in the Free State Junior Union, and we hope he doesn't put too much pressure on the President on the first tee. On Friday evening, the President will express his appreciation to the event sponsors and partners at a prize-giving dinner where all players will be recognized as well. On the evening of Saturday, the 10th of February, the President will shift his focus to South Africans and friends and partners of our country who have advanced our national interest in the international arena. The annual Ubuntu Awards, hosted by the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, will recognize South African industry leaders, eminent persons, and ordinary South African citizens for their distinguished service and contribution in promoting South Africa's national interest and values across the world. The event brings together captains of industry, leaders from civil society, members of cabinet, and eminent persons, in addition to all ambassadors and high commissioners accredited to South Africa. Past winners have included performance artists, athletes, major South African companies, and social upliftment foundations. On the 11th of February, Sunday, the President will attend the Football for Humanity match between the Palestinian national team and a South African side. Football for Humanity will allow Palestinian players to exercise their favorite sport in conditions of peace and sound infrastructure. The game will demonstrate our historic solidarity with the people of Palestine in their struggle against illegal occupation and violent excesses by the State of Israel. This engagement does, however, depend on Bafana Bafana's advancement to the AFCON 24 final, which the President is keen to attend, and we believe that they will advance to the final. And next week, Tuesday and Wednesday, the 13th and the 14th of February, the President will attend Parliament's debate on the State of the Nation address. We do expect that on Valentine's Day, there will be no love lost in the debate, but this will be a manifestation of the robust and open nature of our democratic engagement. On Thursday, the 15th of February, the President will deliver his reply to the debate on the state of the nation. We are also working on a possible engagement with the Cape Town Press Club and members of the media more broadly for the same day, Thursday the 15th. We will confirm that engagement as time goes on, but we're hoping that we'll be able to have such an engagement. Then on Friday, the 16th of February, the President will attend the 37th Ordinary Session of the Assembly of the Heads of State and Government of the African Union, which will take place on the 17th and the 18th of February in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. So he will travel on the Friday, the 16th. The AU Assembly will be preceded by the 44th Ordinary Session of the Executive Council, which will take place on the 14th and the 15th of Feb. The Assembly of Heads of State and Government of the AU will be held under the theme Educate an Africa Fit for the 21st Century, Building Resilient Education Systems for Increased Access to Inclusive, Lifelong, Quality and Relevant Learning in Africa. The Assembly is expected to discuss the status of peace and security on the continent and the consideration of the report of the AU Peace and Security Council. The discussion will take place against the backdrop of great concern regarding the state of peace and security on the continent. The highlight of the 37th Ordinary Session will be the launch of the second 10-year implementation plan of the AU's Agenda 2063, the Africa We Want. Agenda 2063 serves as a 50-year blueprint for Africa's socio-economic development and integration adopted by the AU member states after extensive consultations across the continent. South Africa has elevated the implementation of Agenda 2063 as one of the foremost priorities in the advancement of the African agenda. A key flagship project of Agenda 2063, in which South Africa is playing a leading role, is the operationalization of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement that serves as a milestone development in the evolution of the AU. The President has agreed to co-host the After Business Forum that will be held here in Cape Town between the 15th and the 18th of April. It is envisaged that the forum will be attended by 1,000 delegates, including political principals, captains of industry, CEOs, major banks on the continent, and representatives from the private sector. The President is expected to attend and participate in several high-level committee meetings of the Assembly. These include the meeting of the Committee of African Heads of State and Government on Climate Change, which will be held to reaffirm Africa's position on climate change as advocated during COP28 held in the United Arab Emirates. The President will also present a report on the progress made in fighting the COVID-19 pandemic on the continent in his capacity as the champion of the AU's COVID-19 response. As the pandemic is waning on the continent, South Africa intends to work with the AU Commission towards expanding the role of President to include all other health pandemics that are affecting the continent. On Wednesday, the 21st of February, the President will attend the Minister of Finance's presentation to Parliament of the budget for the 2024-25 financial year. This budget will set out actions that the sixth administration will undertake in the final months of this political term to address the priorities set out by the President in tomorrow's State of the Nation address. The President and Cabinet are committed to serving the nation with the necessary intensity and energy until the end of the term. Their foot is very much on the pedal in this regard, and you do speed up in the home straight. You don't slow down. So that's the spirit. On Thursday, the 22nd of Feb, the President will officiate the annual opening of the National House of Traditional and Khoisan Leaders. This is always a special moment for the President, as this house promotes the role of traditional leadership with our constitutional dispensation and promotes nation-building, peace, stability, and cohesiveness of communities. The President has over the years emphasized the importance of economic development of traditional communities as a vital component of the inclusive and sustainable economy we seek to build. So that brings us to the end of the schedule. And before I take questions, I know there's one question that is top of mind to everybody, and that is, when is the president going to announce the election date? So if you count from tomorrow, the president will announce the election date within 15 days as of tomorrow. So that should put everyone's minds at ease that the election date will be announced within 15 days as of tomorrow. Okay, so we'll now take questions, and I'll look around and pretend as if Stembile is not raising her hand. Yes, Stembile.
Just one clarity. Sorry, my name is Stembile from Lundu. Clarity on the election. So you're not going to announce tomorrow. You will announce within
He will announce within 15 days. Will the announcement come with the proclamation, which must be in the government gazette? Can you just outline that process? And then number two, if I may, am I understanding correctly that the extension of the term of the SARS boss, there is no end date for that? We don't know for how long he will be assisting in the smooth transition. Just clarity on that process and what we should expect. Thank you.
Okay. Stembile, as you know, the president will proclaim soon after announcing. So there shouldn't be a lag between the time he announces and the time he proclaims. All depends on his schedule on that particular day in which he will announce. But often we don't have a huge lag between the announcement and the proclamation. With respect to the term of the SARS boss, I think we need to appreciate that in the middle of this year, we will be transitioning from the 6th to the 7th administration. And preparations for that transition are already underway. SARS is one of the key institutions of the state. And the president and the commissioner in this regard agreed that it wasn't going to be prudent at all to have a parallel transition process taking place. You have one that is more broadly in terms of the administration, moving from one administration to the next. And it will not be prudent to have SARS going through changes around the same time. The details of the extension are yet to be finalized between the commissioner and the president. However, an in-principle agreement has been reached to extend his tenure in order to enable that orderly transition, as we announced yesterday. Next question. You happy, Stembile?
I mean, what are the terms of the extension?
No, I think it's not so much the terms. You have to look at the principle behind the extension, right? So as I've outlined, you have the sort of transition of administrations. It's just not ideal or prudent to have SARS going through leadership changes at the same time. So to the extent that we are at a point where a process to identify the successor to Mr. Kisveta, and you have that handover, it's difficult at this stage to give you the exact sort of timelines. But I think what is important is for you and the public to appreciate that this key institution of the state will remain stable and will remain focused on its mandate, and that the transition will be very orderly. If you think back on the amount of work that Commissioner Kisveta has been able to do to turn SARS around, considering where we come from with that institution, it is not out of the ordinary for the president to and the Commissioner to be concerned about ensuring that all of that work that has been done in the past 5 years is maintained and there is a level of continuity. Lindsay?
But you can hear me.
Yeah.
Vincent, there are several bills, the number befalls me now, that are on the President's desk for assent, and among them, controversially, the NHI bill, which I'm sure in tomorrow's State of the Nation address, the President would want to highlight as a success of this administration, but there's been fierce lobbying, and it still continues for him to hold off on that. Can you give us some kind of update on where he is on bills that are still on his desk? And I'm sure a slew still coming from Parliament before the end of this term to try to get as many of them signed into law before the end of this term.
Sure.
Just an additional question on the election date. Are there any reasons for this delay, considering that the IEC has to prepare? Is it something that he's considering? And couldn't it have been possible for him to announce it tomorrow during SONA? Are there any reasons why he has to separate SONA from the date itself?
I'm not sure I follow the premise of your question when you say reasons for the delay, as if there'd been an agreed timeline on when he will announce. As you know, that there has to be an allowance of 90 days to finalize preparation between the time the date is proclaimed and the actual date of elections. So there's no delay because there was never an agreed timeline as to when he will announce the date. Secondly, this State of the Nation address is different and unique in so many ways. And I think it's important that it is allowed its own expression. And it is allowed, and that South Africans can take out of it the sort of celebratory element of it. Remember, we're marking 30 years of our democratic dispensation. It is also the last State of the Nation address under the 6th administration. And so what you will have is a reflection over the past 30 years, coupled with an account of the work of the 6th administration in the last 5 years. And so it is important that you allow those key elements to be expressed as much as possible without adding other issues. There is no crisis insofar as the election date. There is anticipation, there is excitement, rightly so. We're a democracy. But there is no delay because there was never an expectation of a particular time that he would make the announcement. With respect to the bills, and particularly the NHI bill, I mean, you will appreciate that the President has a constitutional obligation to satisfy himself that the process that the bill has gone through will stand scrutiny, that all the submissions that were made during the public participation process were carefully considered before the bill was passed. This is his constitutional duty. And so the legal team is hard at work, not only on the NHI bill, as you've pointed out, there are other bills that are before the President. And it is important that the President satisfies himself that all those processes prior to the signing of the bill were conducted in the earnest manner that our Constitution envisages. Looks like I get to knock off early. I think I preempted the one question that everybody had in mind, and so there are no questions. Okay, Patience, you've got questions on the WhatsApp line.
Questions on WhatsApp.
Yeah.
So the first one is from Vitaly
Makashev from TES News Agency, and the question is South Africa currently participating in consultations on a possible new expansion of the number of BRICS countries? And can we expect new African countries to join the organization? That's the first one.
Okay, let's take the second one.
The second one is from Vincent Magwenya from SABC. There are reports Qatar and other countries have been able to push Israel and Hamas to agree on a humanitarian ceasefire. Is President Cyril Ramaphosa aware of the latest developments?
Okay, I'll take those two. Okay, so Vitaly, you will know that it's your home country that has now assumed the chairship of BRICS, and so Russia will now be at the forefront of facilitating the various conversations with respect to what happens this year within the family or within the BRICS family, rather. Since last year, there's been a tremendous amount of interest from a number of countries that have applied to join the group. You will recall that we managed during South Africa's chairship to facilitate the inclusion or the addition to the group of 5 more countries. And so now the group has 10 members. Argentina had been admitted, but following the election of a new administration, they've since pulled out. So the group now has 10 members. And so really the question will be for the government of Russia to respond to with respect to its approach to this year's summit, as well as its approach to its leadership of the group with respect to expansion, as well as other related issues. Regarding ongoing talks between Hamas and the State of Israel that have been facilitated by Qatar, the President's understanding is that as I said, ongoing talks. These talks have been ongoing for quite some time, and the President has been fully supportive of all efforts that will result to a ceasefire, number one. Secondly, of all efforts that will allow or enable the opening up of humanitarian corridors. As you will all know, the situation is quite dire from a humanitarian point of view. There is an urgent need to get humanitarian assistance to those that require it. And so the President will continue to encourage and applaud and urge all parties concerned to do their very best to ensure that that humanitarian assistance reaches those that need it. But it's not necessarily a new development, because even the first pause that enabled humanitarian assistance had been facilitated by the state of Qatar, and it has always been our understanding that those talks have been ongoing, and we will be extremely delighted, and the President will welcome a development that will result in an increase or in a situation that will allow humanitarian assistance.
I have a few more. This one is from Molefe Seleta from the Citizen News, and it's about SONA. Why has the budget for SONA, which is 1.5 million, higher than last year? The second question, follow-up to that, is spending so much money really worth it when SONA could easily be held virtually, saving taxpayers millions?
Yeah, that's a strange question. Not quite sure about SONA being held virtually. There is a constitutionally mandated democratic tradition for the President to open Parliament. So it's not just about the State of the Nation address, it's the opening of Parliament. And so I'm not quite sure what the suggestion is there, because this is something that has been part and parcel of our democratic dispensation since 1994. And I'm not really following the logic and the argument of Parliament being open virtually.
The next one is from Lisa. Lisa's from Gumkani FM in East London. The first question is, political analysts have said the president or the presidency Political analysts have said the presidency / President Ramaphosa is over-relying on social grants, especially the 350 RSD. What is the take? What is your take? What is the presidential intervention on youth unemployment? The next question, the NGO Green Connection has written to us saying they are appalled by the actions of government and Petro SA for lack of transparency and nonchalant to climate change. The organization is unhappy about the appointment holdings to fund and rebuild critical and infrastructure. Does the company qualify for the tender, as they claim it doesn't? Does it have a track record and required skills?
I think that last question is best posed to Petro SA. So I won't deal with it. The previous question about reliance on the 350 SRT grant, I don't know what the questioner means about the presidency relying on it. There is a perfectly well-known history and background of that SRT grant as an instrument to alleviate pressure on the poor in this country. It was precipitated by the COVID-19 pandemic, which caused significant amount of job losses, which we've since been able to recover. But nonetheless, there is still an urgent need to continue providing support to those who are in need. And so I would have appreciated more context in terms of what is meant by reliance. On Tuesday, we published a 5-year review which documents progress in South Africa's recovery and rebuilding since 2019. And it deals with the impact of the sixth administration. It's focused on addressing the immediate challenges facing the country and putting in place the foundations for better lives and sustainable growth into the future. I'll encourage all of you and the public to engage with this document, because it provides in a lot of detail the work that this administration has been able to do and achieve, even better contextual understanding of the SRT grant and how it came about. It also covers efforts around the various programs that have been spearheaded by the President and the Presidents in terms of youth development and youth employment. Yesterday, the President spent the afternoon with young people who have been part of the various initiatives that have been championed by the Presidency through the NYDA, where, for example, about 1.7 million work opportunities have been created through those programs for the benefit of the youth. And so it will remain the focus of this administration and into the next administration to ensure that we do improve the situation, or rather we do deal with the levels of unemployment amongst young people.
Another one is from Tando from Business Day. It says, to the extent that the President is concerned, It says, to the extent that the President is concerned about the possibility of interference with elections, coupled with the fact that SA does not have a top spy in the form of a permanent DG at SSA, what assurance does the President give to ensure the credibility of the elections? And a follow-up, an additional question: has the presidency held talks with his security advisors regarding the threats of possible regime change following SA's successful litigation against Israel at the World Court?
Engagements between the president and the security cluster are regular and ongoing, and so they will continue in that nature and in that format. The DG at State Security left a post at the end of November. The process is underway to identify a successor. The acting DG currently is somebody quite well experienced who has a lot of institutional memory and has been in the system for quite some time. And so there is a relative degree there's a large degree of stability there. And so any concerns that the president might have, will not be around whether the SSA is able to respond to threats that may face the country or not, because there is stability in the agency. What the president expressed on this issue was a scenario that may take place. And it was responsible on the side of the president to caution the country that our efforts in the international courts of justice may not be necessarily well received by everybody. And you may have those individuals or entities that may respond in a manner that seeks to subvert our democratic gains as well as our democratic order. And so it was a caution of what may happen. We've already seen stories running in some media outlets questioning the integrity of our banks, who are internationally acclaimed and who are regulated in line with international best practice. We've already seen religious leaders making baseless claims in this regard. We've seen videos circulating on the internet peddling misinformation about the funding of the ICJ case. And so we've already seen some kind of backlash, if you like, that's aimed at South Africa as a result of this ICJ matter. And we anticipate that we will see more. I mean, one I saw was alleging that the case was funded by the governing party, and yet government is always involved in some form of litigation, and government never goes outside looking for funding. So we've already seen a pattern of misinformation around this matter. And so what the president was cautioning about was not necessarily completely out of place or impossible. Adamo? Okay, we're done. Okay. Everybody here looks happy. And it's almost lunchtime, so. Tabo, how are you? Oh, good. Good to see you. Okay, colleagues, thank you so much. We're done? We're buying lunch? No, it's the beginning of the